Welcome! In this tutorial, we'll unravel the mystery of hoisting in JavaScript, a core concept that every developer should understand. Hoisting is JavaScript's default behavior of moving declarations to the top of their scope before code execution. It's like the JavaScript engine takes a quick look at all your variable and function declarations and hoists them up. To understand hoisting, think of JavaScript running your code in two phases. First, in the creation phase, it scans for all declarations and sets up memory for them. Then, in the execution phase, it runs your code line by line, executing assignments and function calls. Understanding hoisting helps you avoid common bugs, like trying to use a variable that's undefined or getting unexpected errors. It clarifies why you can sometimes call a function before you've written its declaration in the code. Let's start with a classic example of hoisting using the var keyword. Notice how we use the variable before we declare it. First, we try to log the message variable to the console. Because of hoisting, the declaration bar message is moved to the top, but its assignment is not. So, at this point, message exists but its value is undefined. Next, we officially declare the message variable and assign it the string hello, hoisting. This is the initialization part that was not hoisted. Finally, we log the message variable again. This time, it has been assigned a value, so the console will correctly display hello, hoisting. Now let's see how function declarations are hoisted. Unlike variables, the entire function body is hoisted, allowing us to call it before it appears in the code. Here, we call the sayHello function. This works perfectly because the entire function declaration was moved to the top of the scope during the creation phase. Then we have the actual declaration of the sayHello function. This is the code block that gets hoisted. Inside the function, we simply log the string hello, world, to the console. And here we close the function block. Function expressions behave differently. When you assign a function to a variable, only the variable declaration is hoisted, not the function assignment itself. This is a crucial distinction from function declarations. Let's see what happens when we try to call a function expression before it's defined. This will result in an error. First, we log the greet variable. Since var greet is hoisted, the variable exists but is undefined at this point. The console will show undefined. Next, we try to execute greet. Because greet is currently undefined, trying to invoke it as a function results in a type error. Greet is not a function. Here is the function expression itself. The variable greet is being assigned an anonymous function. This assignment only happens when the execution phase reaches this line. The function's logic is to simply log greetings to the console. And we close the function expression block. Modern JavaScript with let and const introduced a concept called the temporal dead zone, or TDZ. While these variables are technically hoisted, you cannot access them before their declaration. Trying to do so results in a reference error. Here's an example that demonstrates the temporal dead zone. Accessing a let variable before its declaration will cause a crash. This comment reminds us that the next line will fail. We attempt to log the city variable. Because city is declared with let, it is currently in the temporal dead zone. This line will throw a reference error. Cannot access city before initialization. Here is the actual declaration and initialization of the city variable. The code execution will never reach this line because of the error on the previous line. Class declarations in JavaScript are also hoisted, but just like let and const, they are subject to the temporal dead zone. You must declare a class before you can create an instance of it. Let's try to create a new instance of a car class before we've actually defined the class. This will demonstrate the TDZ for classes. Again, this comment indicates that the code is expected to fail. We attempt to create a new instance of the car class. Since the car class declaration has not been reached yet, it is in the TDZ, and this line will throw a reference error. This line, which would log the new car instance, will never be executed due to the error on the previous line. Here we begin the declaration of the car class. This is the code that is hoisted but remains inaccessible until this point. Inside the class, we define a constructor that takes a brand as an argument. The constructor assigns the past in brand to a property on the new instance. What happens if a variable and a function have the same name? During the creation phase, function declarations are hoisted and stored first. Then, variable declarations are processed. This means a function declaration will take precedence over a variable declaration. In this example, we have both a variable and a function named myValue. Let's see how hoisting and execution order affect the final output. We log the type of myValue. Because the function declaration for myValue is hoisted with higher precedence than the var declaration, myValue is a function at this point. The output will be function. Now, during the execution phase, this line is run. The myValue identifier, which was pointing to the function, is now reassigned to the string I am a variable. This is the function declaration. Its entire body was hoisted during the creation phase, but it has no effect during the execution phase because it's just a declaration. The function is designed to return a simple string. Finally, we check the type of myValue again. Since the variable assignment has already occurred, myValue is now a string. The output will be string. To summarize, declarations are hoisted, but initializations are not. Var is hoisted and initialized with undefined. Let, const, and class are hoisted but enter a temporal dead zone. As a best practice, always declare your variables and functions at the top of their scope to make your code more predictable and avoid issues related to hoisting.